Today in my season prediction video, two heavyweights are going to go at it. Maybe a heavyweight and a light heavyweight. I'm talking about Alabama and Miami. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I do college football videos every single day. Don't forget to check out my friends at Tri-State Wood Sketch. All you have to do is send him a picture, and he'll turn it into a beautiful piece of art on wood. Check out his website at www.tristatewoodsketch.com. Tell him Golden Blue Dude sent you, and you'll get 20% off. Right now, I am in full grind mode in season predictions. Today is going to be Alabama and Miami. First game of the season. This is an interesting matchup. Everybody is already awarding Alabama this win, and rightfully so. Alabama is Alabama, but I think Miami's going to be pretty good this year. Let's start off with Alabama. Last year, they were 13-0, first in the SEC, and of course, national champions. Head coach Nick Saban, in 14 years at Alabama, he's 170-23. That's a winning percentage of 87.8%. He is the greatest college football coach of all time. 19 bowl appearances at Alabama and just 5 losses, 7 SEC titles, and 6 national championships. Look, Saban will be at Alabama as long as Saban wants to be. Contracts are just a formality. This year's team is going to be very interesting to watch because they lost a lot of production on offense. Alabama fans are already ready to hoist up a second national championship, back-to-back national championship in 2021. I would hold off a bit on that because the last time Alabama won back-to-back national championships was in 2011 and 2012. And the reason I'm hesitant to say that Alabama will repeat is because they did lose a lot on offense. In that repeat team, pretty much it was the same team in 2011 and 2012. Here's all their key losses on offense. Of course, quarterback Mac Jones, that's the big one. Running back Najee Harris. Wide receiver Jalen Waddle. Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver Devontae Smith. And they lost 4 starters on the offensive line, so the offensive line will have to be rebuilt. I'm not saying Alabama's going to fall off a cliff, but I do think they lose a game in the regular season. Here's a look at their offense. The starting quarterback will be Bryce Young. Last year, he was 13 for 22. That's 59.1%, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. I do think the running game will be strong even though they lost Najee Harris. Starting with running back Brian Robinson, 91 carries for 483 yards, 5.3 yards a carry. Running back Chase McClellan, 23 carries for 245 yards, 10.7 yards a carry. That's pretty good. By the way, as usual, names on the rosters, Alabama and Miami are tricky, so I probably will mispronounce some names. Here's a look at Alabama's passing game, starting with the tight end. Tight end Jaleel Billingsley, 18 receptions for 287 yards and 3 touchdowns. Here's their wide receiver core. Wide receiver Javon Baker, 2 receptions for 15 yards. Wide receiver John Mechie III, 55 receptions for 916 yards and 6 touchdowns. Wide receiver Slade Bolden, 24 receptions for 270 yards, 1 touchdown. Incoming 4-star recruit, wide receiver Trayshawn Holden, 6'3", 195 pounds. Wide receiver Xavier Williams, 3 receptions for 24 yards. And incoming 4-star recruit, wide receiver IG Hall, 6'3", 195 pounds. So a lot of inexperience on the offensive side of the ball. I think there will be an adjustment period, and I don't think Alabama will be as good as they were last year on that side of the ball. Now let's talk about Alabama's defense. Even though Alabama will take a slight step backwards in their offense, their defense will be elite. Last year they allowed 19.4 points per game, that's 13th in the nation, and allowed 352.2 yards a game. I think that defense will be even better in 2021. 11 starters are back on this defense, so they didn't really lose anybody except for that cornerback Patrick Surtain, and that will sting a little bit. Here's a look at their front 7. Starting with their defensive line. Defensive end LeBron Ray, 12 tackles, 7 by himself, a half a sack. Defensive tackle DJ Dale, 22 tackles, 8 by himself, 2 pass deflections. And defensive end Fedarian Mathis, 31 tackles, 16 by himself, 1.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 3 pass deflections. Now the linebacking core. Linebacker Will Anderson Jr., 52 tackles, 33 by himself, 7 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. Linebacker Christian Harris, 79 tackles, 52 by himself, 4.5 sacks, 1 interception, and 2 pass deflections. In the big-time Tennessee transfer, linebacker Henry To'oto, 76 tackles, 47 by himself, 1 sack, 1 interception, which he returned for a touchdown, and 2 pass deflections. He will have an immediate impact on this defense. Then linebacker Christopher Allen, 33 tackles, 20 by himself, 5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. So that front 7 puts a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Here's a look at Alabama's secondary. And even though they lost cornerback Patrick Surtain, I think Alabama's secondary could be the best in the SEC this year. Starting with cornerback Josh Jobe, 55 tackles, 39 by himself, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 11 7 pass deflections. The cornerback that's replacing Patrick Surtain. Cornerback Jalen Armour-Davis, 2 solo tackles last year. Free safety DeMarco Helms, 59 tackles, 36 by himself, and 3 pass deflections. Strong safety Jordan Battle, 66 tackles, 39 by himself, 1 interception, which he returned for a touchdown, and 4 pass deflections. Defensive back Malachi Moore, 44 tackles, 27 by himself, 1 forced fumble, 3 interceptions, and 6 pass deflections. Alabama will be the favorite to win the SEC once again, but I do think that losing all those starters on the offensive side of the ball in an offensive era in college football will set them back just a smidge. No repeat as national champions this year. Sorry, Bama fans. Here's a look at Alabama's 2021 football schedule. First, they get Miami in Atlanta. I'll predict that here in a little bit. A home game against Mercer, that's a win. At Florida, Florida will be depleted. Win. Southern Miss, win. And they get Ole Miss at home. Right after that, at Texas A&M. I don't know which of those teams I would predict that loss to, but one of those two teams, that's where Alabama will grab their loss. At Mississippi State, win. Tennessee at home, win. Then they get their bye week. Then another tough team, LSU, but they do get them at home. I think that's a win. New Mexico State at home, win. Arkansas at home, win. Then a rivalry game on the road at Auburn. I don't think Auburn's going to be any good, but you never know what's going to happen in those rivalry games. However, I do have that as a win. So overall, in the regular season, I have Alabama going either 11-1 or 10-2, depending on that prediction against Miami. Now let's take a look at Miami. Last year, they were 8-3, third in the ACC because there were no divisions. From 2019 to 2020, Miami switched from a pro-style offense to a spread up-tempo offense, and it's paid off immediately. But this year, Miami's success hinges on the health of quarterback D'Eriq King. So here's a look at their offense, starting with quarterback D'Eriq King. Last year, he was 211 for 329, 64.1%, threw for 2,686 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He is a dual threat quarterback, but because of his injury, the running part of his game could take a hit this year. Last year, he had 130 carries for 538 yards, 4.1 yards a carry, and 4 touchdowns. Here's a look at Miami's running backs. Running back Jalen Knighton, 52 carries for 209 yards, 4 yards a carry, and 1 touchdown. Running back Cameron Harris, 126 carries for 643 yards, 5.1 yards a carry, and 10 touchdowns. Now look at Miami's passing game, starting with their tight end. Tight end Will Mallory, 22 receptions for 329 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think he'll be solid this year. Here's a look at their wide receiving core. Wide receiver Keyshawn Smith, 2 receptions for 58 yards. Then the transfer from Oklahoma, wide receiver Charleston Rambo. Last year he had 25 receptions for 312 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver Mike Harley, 57 receptions for 799 yards and 7 touchdowns. Wide receiver D. Wiggins, 31 receptions for 358 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver Mark Pope, 33 receptions for 403 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Xavier Restrepo, 1 reception for 12 yards. If D'Eriq King is healthy, Miami has no worries on offense. The big questions for Miami is on the defensive side of the ball. They can never figure out how to put a good defensive team on the field. Can they do it in 2021? They switched a lot of coaches around on the defensive side of the ball. I do think the D-line is a work in progress. Here's a look at their front 7, starting with their defensive line. They did get a nice transfer in Tennessee transfer, defensive end DeAndre Johnson. Last year, he had 28 tackles, 17 by himself, 4.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. That will help. Defensive tackle Jared Harrison Hunt, 17 tackles, 9 by himself, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Defensive tackle Nesta J. Silvera, 35 tackles, 15 by himself, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 pass deflection. Defensive end Zach McLeod, 27 tackles, 16 by himself, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass deflection. Here's their linebackers. Linebacker Keontra Smith, 22 tackles, 14 by himself, 1 pass deflection. Linebacker Corey Flagg Jr., 15 tackles, 1 by himself. Linebacker Gilbert Frierson, 53 tackles, 29 by himself, 2 sacks, and 4 pass deflections. The front 7 has got to get more pressure on the quarterback. Believe it or not, the secondary of Miami looks to be the strength of their defense in 2021. They'll try to make the turnover chain have routine appearances. They need to turn people over more. Starting with their cornerbacks, Tyreek Stevenson, the Georgia transfer, 34 tackles, 22 by himself, 5 pass deflections. That'll help solidify the secondary. Quarterback DJ Ivey, 36 tackles, 25 by himself, 1 interception, 4 pass deflections. Safety Bubba Bolden. This was big that he chose to return to Miami. Last year he had 74 tackles, 50 by himself, 1 sack, 4 forced fumbles, 1 interception, and 3 pass deflections. And then safety Gervin Hall Jr., 43 tackles, 20 by himself, and 3 pass deflections. If the front 7 can get pressure on the opposing quarterbacks, the secondary might be able to take advantage of the mistakes those quarterbacks make. So really the success of the defense is on that front 7. They have to be better. Here's a look at the 2021 Miami football schedule. Now, a lot of people are saying the main goal of Miami against Alabama should be not get embarrassed and get run off the field. I think Miami should have higher standards than that. Yes, you don't want to get embarrassed. I think Miami has the talent to avoid embarrassment and compete with Alabama. So I'll predict that game against Alabama here in just a second. After that, a home game against Appalachian State, that's a win. Michigan State at home, win. Central Connecticut State at home, win. Virginia at home, win. But Virginia will be better this year. It's a good thing this game is at home. And they get the bye week at North Carolina, loss. North Carolina's going to be really good, and that's going to be a tough road game for Miami. NC State at home, I think that's a tough win. At Pitt, that could be a win or a loss. I think Miami is the better team, but Pitt can be tricky sometimes. Georgia Tech at home, win. And then at Florida State, that also could be a win or loss. Florida State's going to be much better. It is a rivalry, and it is on the road. So I think they split those road games. At Pitt, at Florida State, they'll win one, they'll lose one. They get Virginia Tech at home, that's a win. And then at Duke, that's a win. Now for the actual game prediction between Alabama and Miami. I think this game will be a lot closer than people realize. Honestly, I think Miami will have the better offense in this game, but Alabama will by far have the superior defense. And I think that's where the game will be decided. I think this will be a lower scoring game, and I think Alabama's defense will be the difference. I'm predicting Alabama to win this game 31-21. Not a total embarrassment for Miami. I think they hang in there, but this will be a much lower scoring game than people anticipate. Alabama will still be in the adjustment period as far as new faces on offense, but I think their defense will be able to limit Miami's explosive offense. So that means on the season, I have Alabama going 11-1, getting to the SEC championship, but losing to Georgia. So their overall record will be 11-2, and they will barely miss the playoffs. That means I have Miami going 9-3, not getting to the ACC championship, but possibly getting to a New Year's Six bowl. So it'll be a pretty decent season for Miami. But even if they have that type of success, some changes do need to be made at Miami. There's going to be a drastic fall off after this season. I think Miami needs to get rid of Manny Diaz and hire Tom Herman. Tom Herman is a great recruiter, and I think he would bring the swag back to the U. And that's what Miami needs, the swag. Let me know what you guys think about my season predictions and this game prediction. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.